All right, and we should be live. So, welcome to another chat with patrons. So, we're live on YouTube. Those of you hanging out in the YouTube chat, feel free to ask questions and comments. We may try to keep up with some of your guys' input as well. Of course, I'm joined with several patrons here on camera. Hope all of you guys are doing well.
Yeah, all doing great.
Perfectly fine.
All right, and I hear all of you guys here inside the Jitsi chat, but let's ask the YouTube audience for a yay or a nay on the audio. My audio and the guest audio. Can you hear everybody?
My mic is totally not muted, I swear.
Okay.
So my mic should be okay.
Yeah, you sound great.
Hello.
Yeah, we heard you. Somebody in the chat is, will today's chat be spooky? Yeah, this is a little weird because obviously it's Halloween. So, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Is that a Luke Smith costume? What are you doing there, Josh?
This is your face.
No.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, it is. It actually is. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I might have printed it just a little bit too small. I can't see it.
Jitsi, did you not recognize yourself?
Well, I was going to see if I could fool everybody. I was like, oh, yeah, that is. Somebody in the chats, yeah, a couple of guys are saying, turn it up. Let me see, make sure you guys are good. Everything looks good in Pulse Audio here.
Well, gosh, I guess.
So let me ask the question. Can you guys hear the guests? Their audio is quiet. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Can you guys hear me?
Hey, hello from Switzerland.
Hello from Norway.
Hello from Slovenia.
From Austria.
Let's see. Let's get you guys to talk again.
Oh, okay.
Hello.
And let's ask the chat.
Hello.
As you guys can see, I am clearly not using Gen 2 again. I totally swear. I have not taken the time to take 60 plus hours to get my installation the way I want it to be.
Problem is you have.
I have not been porting everything from the Ubuntu Mate GitHub page over to Gen 2. I totally swear. I did not just submit an e-build for the Mate tweak tool into the repositories.
Yeah. One of the commenters in the chat said that it was about DT, but you are obviously for today you are using XP, right?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Yes, someone commented it is Halloween that for today you are going to use XP, which is a scary experience.
Well, I can say I am already prepared for the Halloween episode. I got myself a better camera so you can see the horrible face in all the detail.
Yeah.
I got myself a better camera just so I can rely on Jitsi to put this wonderful image behind my back using AI rendering that is absolutely good quality software and not completely ruining the picture of me.
Well, this is actually my phone using some technology, P2P technology to stream video to my laptop via Wi-Fi, then using OBS to turn it into a virtual webcam.
That sounds like a good quality product right there.
It makes you look younger.
Thanks. Like I don't need that. I definitely don't need it because when I take this off, people think I'm like 17. It's horrible.
I feel ya. I can either choose between 43 or 17, but I'm neither of those.
Well, when I have this, they think of me like 27, 28. Definitely. I'm neither of those. But when I was younger, I was like 18 and people were asking me, did you fail high school?
Ouch.
What? I was like, why? You seem old.
I feel you.
You must have 2 or 3 times failed high school. Like, no.
It's the CRT leaking that kept you young, right?
I don't know. I just
Well,
know
I mean,
I'm either super old or super young, but I'm never what I really am.
I
No,
prefer
yeah.
to be whatever my ID card says I am.
That's why I shave my head. It actually, takes like 10, 15 years off your age. People naturally think you're much younger than you are. Because if I had hair, half of it would be gray, and it would give it away.
Yeah.
I always when we, after I got I was 18 when we went to bars with friends, like even after school, all of them got carded except me. I didn't need to even pull my wallet out. I just got the beer. All of them were carded except me.
Yeah,
It
I
was-
feel you.
I discovered
feel
the
ya.
trick back when I was 18 years old that if you grew a beard, nobody would card you.
Yeah, it worked. I
It-
can
it-
I can confirm.
Yeah.
Apparently,
Well-
it works so well that he shaved it off.
Let's talk a little bit about some Linux stuff that's gone on in the last month since we last did the chat. Of course, the big thing was obviously the new Ubuntu releases.
Oh yes, fantastic.
So some of them were. Some
Yeah.
of them were quite good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
fantastic. I'm porting everything to Gentoo.
I mean, I've got I've got both Kubuntu and Lubuntu running nicely. The main edition of Ubuntu. Wow, that thing. That was bad, Big Pod.
Yeah.
That was bad.
I'm not gonna comment on it. I already forgot about 2110. I'm already on 22.
Yeah, it's time to move on to the
I
LTS.
already moved on. It's the fastest time I moved on, but not because of the horrible release or anything like that. We did quite well. I just moved on because, well, data. I need to generate more data for us.
Yeah.
That's main thing.
I'm of
Well,
the
I'm-
opinion that Ubuntu Mate should change its code base from Ubuntu to something else.
No, won't happen.
It's
They're-
either that,
They're
it's either
really
that, or
behind
get rid of the
what we
bottom
are.
panel.
You know what? If they switch to Gentoo Mate, I mean, the name's all so similar, right? Ubuntu Mate, Gentoo Mate.
There is
No,
a reason we are Ubuntu Mate, why we are Ubuntu, and that's not gonna change. We have our own reasons why we are, because this is meant to be a distro for people. You just give people who are
Are you saying I'm not a person?
normal. You're a person, but you aren't what we're targeting. With
You're not the target audience.
Oh, okay. Okay.
You know who's the target audience?
People.
Linus Tech Tips and
We're gonna get on that too.
It's out now.
We're gonna get.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
people you are IT engineer of, and you just want them to
Yeah.
leave you alone. That's who the target audience is. Let's be honest here.
Would you believe it or not? I did not actually know that Linus Tech Tips was a thing. I've been completely oblivious to that for so long. I thought when I heard about it first, oh, this is just some Linux channel where somebody's going and playing off of Linus Torvalds' name or something. No.
Yes, totally. Some Linux channel.
Totally.
No.
Yeah, I especially like the episode where they referenced exchanging all server parts with Linux,
And
especially in the
then they
headline.
installed BSD.
Yeah, and then they installed BSD. Like I was
That's
like, yeah,
beautiful.
okay, that's clickbaiting and whateverism at its finest.
Clickbaiting, and I
Well-
think they actually at first thought they were going to do Linux.
Yeah,
Because from I think they actually from what I heard, I think they were first thinking of doing the scale version of through
You know what I thought initially? I
probably-
thought they were actually confused. I thought they thought BSD was Linux there for a minute, is what I thought.
I agree.
They're pretty good over there. They
Just so you
but
know,
Well,
I was in that live stream when they declared that they were going to be doing the challenge. They put that poll up, and I totally voted for Gen 2.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Well, here's the problem I have with the Linus Tech Tips thing is in my video the other day,
Yep.
my
Was bad.
gentle
Yes.
introduction to Linux. I said that Linus and Luke, they're kind of Linux noobs, so they don't have that much experience with Linux. People are like, well, aren't you kind of assuming they're Linux noobs? How do you know? Well, I
actually-
saw Linus complain the other day that Dolphin, the file manager, didn't have root privileges.
Yeah.
Yes, it didn't have. It doesn't
Right.
have in many distros.
And
That's
he's
actually correct. And that's a horrible UX. Let's be clear. Why I'm not on his side about it needs to be on. It needs to be in there. I think that from UX perspective, it should be there. That's first of all. Second of all,
problem
I
with
am
that-
in support of terminal being used for pseudo commands. But
Well,
that is unreasonable
was-
expectation
The problem
from
with that
us.
is, I thought the
reality.
Wayland protocol didn't allow applications to actually run as root.
I think you
No.
can if you
Yeah.
know what you're doing, but I think you can.
Oh,
At least
okay.
I remember that was a big problem with
yeah.
1810, but that got changed, I believe.
But Linus was
Everybody
complaining.
exploded about that.
Yeah, Linus was complaining about Dolphin not having sudo privileges, so he went to the Manjaro forums because he's running Manjaro KDE, I think, and he asked them why won't Dolphin allow you to just edit stuff as root, and they said, well, you really shouldn't be playing around in the root file system. And he said that was an elitist answer from the community. I was like, no,
No,
if you
that's not
that's
what
not
he
an
said.
elitist answer. That's
don't know
you
what
shouldn't be
actually
playing
he
around.
said.
Don't don't
reality
monkey around
is-
with it. No.
He had
Such a
a real reason why he needed to do that.
Yeah, there's a real reason why Dolphin and most file managers make you jump through hoops to be root is because you don't want grandma going in the root directory and, oh, there's a
yeah.
boot folder. Let me delete that. I never use it. There's the sys folder. Let me delete that.
Well, that's why that's
Some administrator.
that's a problem with Linux in general. That
Right.
system allows you to delete files that are related to operating system, even as admin. It allows you to do sudo rf start.
Yeah.
That's a problem in the core of Linux file system handling. That's why that's one of the reasons why Windows is better.
But
It
you
does
can
Yeah,
still,
but-
you,
but,
you-
the
you can
difference-
still use it.
file system right locking. That's
The-
why
the-
Windows is better.
The difference is that Linux assumes that the administrators know what he's doing.
Linux assumes that administrator actually understand what it
But
is.
I think
but
they know more
That
than they
shouldn't
let
be
on.
assumed. That's first of all. Second of all, just for your information, Luke, the other guy, not Linus, Luke, he actually used Linux for many years as a daily driver, just as a
Yeah,
reference.
I think
Yeah.
it's trolling the community a little bit because they pre-plan things. I think people
Linus-
don't give them credit.
First of all, let's understand this. Linus actually went straight for, I'm an idiot. Let's try it that way.
Well,
Yeah.
well,
That's
you know,
what
like
he's going for. He's trying to at the same time push it out and trying to show us what we're missing, because we're missing quite a bit to be a real alternative for a desktop operating system. And he's just showing us that we just don't like that.
Well, he also complained like the whole you can't do anything in the root file system, through the GUI. Well, he refuses to open a terminal and enter commands at the command line. He's like, you shouldn't have to do that. I'm like,
you
well,
shouldn't have to do that. Yes, you should have to do that. For a desktop, you shouldn't have to do that. Sorry, but you shouldn't have to do that.
But like Derek in his video said,
It's a UX.
clickbait works.
It's a UX problem. It's a UX problem we need to solve. And there is a reason Microsoft and Apple spend millions of dollars researching UX. There is a reason why telemetry is used to see what buttons people click, what they use. And many companies spend millions, if not tens of millions of dollars researching UX.
Yeah, but who's going to spend that with Linux? Everything's mostly built by the community.
Yes, and community. Problem is community is just basically all people who are ITs, and basically they live in terminal, and that's a problem.
The community's not going to test.
Big Pod, I would like to counter that because I totally have a grandmother who turns on her computer where it boots straight into Firefox, linking straight to Gmail.
But is she part of a community, or is she just a user?
She is a user, not a community member.
That's the difference. She won't be contributing to Linux.
She doesn't even use a window manager. She launches Firefox into an Xorg root window directly.
Yeah.
Because
a lot of people do that with but a lot of people set up Linux kiosks to boot directly into Chrome or Firefox. Yeah, man, that's a normal thing. Not at home. I wouldn't do that for a home computer. But
I did that for a home computer once. But
yeah, I did too, just to test it out. I've done it too.
She's an example of normal user. But we here are not. That's the difference. We really cannot talk about what normal users should expect or would do, because none of us are. We can just expect based on our experiences with those normal users.
Well, and there's something to be learned. In the my background is architecture, engineering, construction. Well, we learned in school that you can design anything you want and say this is how it's supposed to be used, but there's 100% guarantee that someone's going to use your space in a way that you don't want or didn't intend. They will find a way.
Yeah, but I'm gonna criticize the whole Linus Tech Tips thing. He does in a part expect everything to run like Windows or to be like
that's the problem. Is they're completely different.
I actually
it's a bit of a mindset problem.
Yeah,
specifically, I think he's well aware they can't run everything like Windows because he has used Linux before, but he's never used it full time. So he knows that there are some changes.
Yeah.
But what he's wanting to do is he's wanting to come in here and be able to just have things work.
Yeah.
But at the same time, his hardware setup we actually have to discuss here.
Great.
Yeah. The hardware setup alone is probably why Luke is having a much better time than Linus.
Mm-hmm.
Because not really. After he got it working, it should work just as fine as Luke's. It's just that he needs to get it working. But let's remember, Linus imploded his Pop OS install in I believe few days after he installed it.
Not even a few days; it was a few minutes.
I believe it was in the same day that he imploded it basically totally.
Yeah.
Those who do not know want to know how? He installed Steam.
Yep.
And that was an implosion of the operating system.
I know. A few months back, he was doing something gaming on Ubuntu, and he was having trouble installing. Was it a video driver?
Yeah.
Because he was trying not to install. He wasn't installing it from the software center.
No,
from
he was going to NVIDIA.com.
It's like, dude, that's not where you go get their driver.
That is one of the biggest difference, and that is the biggest difference between a Windows environment and a Linux environment, and maybe even Mac. I'm not sure. In Linux, we don't go around downloading
and that stuff. Is something.
But I remember when I started. I've been doing this for 21 years now. I started downloading from the internet and compiling locally and so on. I remember there was something I was going to install, and it required a newer version of the Qt than I had. I ran Red Hat 7.1 at the time. So I downloaded the Qt from the Qt website and compiled it. I remember it took 12 hours compiling, and it installed fine, and I could install the software that I needed it for. And then I commented on Linux-oriented IRC channel that I had done this, and one of them said, asked why I didn't download the RPM, and my reaction was, what? They had RPM?
All right.
This is
Well-
and this is the mindset of a user coming from Windows. They are used to going to some website of the official and downloading a package. Or
I went and tried to install NVIDIA driver. First time I owned this laptop, which was basically first time I actually used Arch on a real desktop, real system. I tried to install NVIDIA driver from the website.
Yeah.
I actually did that and actually did implode my OS install. So that is something really normal.
I thought you were going to talk about you decided to grab it from the AUR and it took hours to compile, because I've done stuff like that before where I went and got something unnecessarily from the AUR when it was in the main repository and then
But that is something we need to change. One thing I think that shows how bad how his mind, and actually I think his mindset is changing over time. Just at start it was that, because the GitHub problems he had with GitHub, that was a horrible mess. And yes, he was wrong that. Of course, while yes, UX wise, yes, GitHub should have a download button for a specific file. That's a
they
UX.
do, don't they?
No, they don't. That's a UX issue. I do also think.
Oh, he wasn't trying to download the whole repository. He just wanted a single file. Okay, yes. I feel this pain on that. Yeah.
Yeah, that should be. Yeah. But as he said, that it needs to have, because people use it as to host files. No, that's not true. Generally, people use it as a Git repository. So if he said that he shouldn't need to read a manual how to operate GitHub, which is wrong. Yes, you should.
That's just a mindset problem.
You're not having any way of knowing how to use, because you're out of your depth here.
Well, he thinks GitHub is something it's not. He was thinking it's more like a file sharing kind of thing.
Sharing.
Right. And that's not what. That's not what it's for.
But if we return to the Steam issue he had, what happened was, in that specific time, Pop! OS build of Steam, or Pop! OS version of Steam package was not built because they just basically repackage it, was broken, or one dependencies, no exactly what, and it broke his system, like completely, totally broke it, because it was broken for a few hours.
Are you sure that's not due to the fact that it was running GPU pass-through into a virtual machine piped over a Thunderbolt cable?
No, definitely not. Okay. That's actually not that much of a problem. It's just a bit of configuration issue. It's actually to think if that was the case, then any laptop that has Thunderbolt would break, because on a laptop you can plug in a cable into a Thunderbolt port and it should work. That's not a problem.
We should also talk about these guys. Obviously, it's a huge tech-related channel, and they're always getting the latest and greatest hardware. So sometimes they're going to run into issues that if they were running older hardware, a lot of these problems would already be worked out.
Yes, but at the same time, that's what gamers run. A lot of gamers run latest and greatest hardware.
Well, that's true, but again, they're really on the bleeding edge because sometimes they get things before even the public, right? So,
not on their private machines.
Have you not looked at that Thunderbolt that Linus got? He had that for a good year before they even had a public release.
That was one of the it was a specific setup because of it. But reality is that was one of the really exceptions. But even that shouldn't be a problem, because as far as I know, Thunderbolt should work on Linux, and plugging in a cable into a Thunderbolt hub shouldn't be a problem. If that is a problem, then how will I run Thunderbolt when I get myself a new laptop?
Hey, Big Pod, your audio has gotten kind of bad in the last minute and a half. It's really staticky.
Any better now?
That's called passion. That's what that is. Those are the sounds of a passionate nerd.
No, it just sounded like a cable that was shorting out. It was crackling.
Or maybe a microphone rubbing up against the beard hairs.
Yeah, I think he's good now.
Well, but I think from what I've seen, like last last man show, his mindset is changing. So
No.
we'll see by the end what will happen. But
I've
yes,
got to say,
as you said-
Solbu, I like the GNU hat, by the way. I don't know where
Yeah.
you got that, but I wish I don't wear caps that often, but
Yeah, I bought this and 2 T-shirts from the Free Software Foundations
Very cool.
some years ago.
yeah. Matter of fact, I wore a hoodie, my Free Software Foundation hoodie, because it was a little chilly this morning when I got up, so I actually put on a hoodie.
I am
Yeah.
upset with the Free Software Foundation. I put in a request for the source code for this polo shirt that I bought the other day. I have yet to receive the source code. It's my GNU given right to get that source code. Where's my source code, Richard Stallman?
Yay!
It should be open hardware, right?
It should be.
Yay!
Yeah. So I happened to when I started my first Linux trial was there was a magazine in a gas station near where I lived in 1998, late 1998. It came with SUSE 5.2. And it had in that time by that there was some writing in the Norwegian IT press that Windows 95 and 98 wasn't a real 32-bit OS, and it was explained how it wasn't because it depended on 16-bit libraries and MS-DOS underneath that and so on. So I knew about the 16 and 32-bit. And the front cover took me by surprise. It was, I still remember the title to this day, a real 32-bit free operating systems.
Wow.
Obviously, this I had to try. So as I started, it was unstable, at least on my system at that time. So I went back after a few days to Windows 98. But that started, and in 2000 or 2001 was when I started having using it daily, because I had in 2001 I got a second computer, so I had one Windows and one Linux. And then I started reading, and I came across Stallman, and I started watching some of his talks and reading some articles. And then he came in 2005 to Trondheim, the city where I lived in Norway. And he had a talk about why free software is important and having the source and why that is important. Up until that point, I knew what free software was. So, roughly, I had an idea what it was, and then I understand because he also mentioned the difference between free software and open source in the philosophy behind it, and this thinking and that talk was that converted me to a free software advocate. So I'm using the term free software wherever I can, and I avoid the term open source unless it is to discuss the issues. So
right. Well, let me also change topics just a little bit here. So, since we last met, DTOS, obviously the people were asking about that in the YouTube chat. Somebody was asking, and I've gotten this question a few times, why do everything with Arch? People have asked, why didn't you build it on Gentoo? Or even crazier, why didn't I build it on OpenBSD? And then in the chat, hey, why didn't you just start with Linux from scratch? Well, I don't know. How about I would like a package manager? Like I've packaged everything for Arch Linux. I've already, I spent so much time building Arch packages. It's got to be Arch based. I can't do anything else at this point, or otherwise I'm just throwing away countless hours of work and starting over for no reason.
Well, it's
it's also the fact that you have to pick one and stick with it,
right?
Which is why I have always stuck to RPM based distros, because for the last 11 years I've been doing package management myself.
Come on. come on. You all just need to be quiet here because we all know that the true distribution is the one that you can use, the true original universal package management system of .tar.gz extensions.
Hey guys, one of the patrons, Murray, was mentioning he couldn't get into the Jitsi room here. Have any of you guys had a problem joining any of the Jitsi? Okay, I don't know.
I did.
It is
I actually had to do it
not
in browser.
Jitsi.
You had to do it in what?
I had to do it in browser. I had to go to the Jitsi website and do it in browser. I wasn't able to join using the desktop client.
Okay.
I got in first try on the iOS client.
There is also one thing. Firefox or Firefox-based browser have trouble using Jitsi. So I'm connecting using Chromium.
Okay.
I'm using Edge, so it works fine there.
Well, I'll suggest that he try it in the desktop or in the web client if he was trying the desktop.
I recommend using Edge. Works better than anything else.
I recommend using Epiphany.
Don't.
Now, I am using the desktop client. I'm using an app image of Jitsi, and it could be that the versions are incompatible, maybe what he's trying to use and what I'm using. But I don't. The web version should work for everybody.
Yeah, it does.
I can't imagine if he was trying to connect through the browser that it would be a problem.
Yeah, as long as it's a Chromium or Firefox base and supports WebRTC, it should work.
Well, what browser isn't Chromium or Firefox based that people actually use?
Oh,
Josh,
that people actually use?
Netscape?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Safari.
It depends. It
On
depends.
Safari.
On Mac, yeah.
No.
No.
Safari supports WebRTC. However,
Yeah.
Internet Explorer does not, and people still use Internet Explorer.
They do.
Those people should have their access to
the internet revoked. Right.
I would love to not use Internet Explorer at work.
Yeah.
But because...
Just a quick response to this super chat here. Hey DT, I have no coding background, but I want to learn Bash scripting. How do I get started? Well, there are a million tutorials out on the web. Just do a search for Learn Bash Scripting. Of course, YouTube, you can find a bajillion videos, beginner-friendly videos about getting started with Bash scripting. But ultimately, to learn anything, mainly, you just have to do it. Mainly, it's just getting started and sticking with it. It's not hard. It's just you got to put in the time. That's it. If you actually put in the time and learned a little bit, spent 30 minutes, an hour every day for 6 weeks, you would have Bash scripting down, at least for, any kind of common task that you'd want to do.
Yeah, and there's several websites who have some tutorials on how to do it, and I think there even is a few YouTube series who do the same.
And there is a website.
And utilities, actually, also to use.
Yeah. There is a website I've used before. I think it's LearnShell, learnshell.com or learnshell.org. Maybe do a Google search for that. But it's one of those things. It'll give you, like a box where you have to type in the code, and then you can see it in real time. If your changes take effect and are actually doing what you're trying to do.
LearnShell.org. A free interactive shell programming tutorial.
Yeah, and that's just one that I remember off the top of my head. I know there's a bunch of websites like that out there where you can practice shell scripting.
I put a Git repository that has just some basic commands and examples.
Okay, I'll paste that in the YouTube chat.
Oh,
yeah,
that's handy.
Yeah, and I will also bookmark that in my browser. Let's see. Okay.
It's real basic stuff, but it's a whole lot of what people might want to use, and then a whole lot of what people never wind up getting to using is all there.
Yeah.
I really like those cheat sheets that cover 85% of the cases.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best thing to speed up everyday hassle, from my personal opinion. Great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, probably the most, once you get down creating variables and arrays, I like the really basic beginner stuff with shell scripting. Probably the most useful things you really want to get a hold of right away: grep, set, and awk. If you can grep, set, and awk, you can do anything practically.
Yeah. Really, like a great way to learn shell scripting is to take all of your basic terminal commands and just start pasting them into text files, and just learning how to get all those commands to work in a single script. This is actually a use case where I actually recommend you grab an Arch ISO and drop in a VM and just copy paste all the wiki commands into a single shell script and just seeing what happens.
Yeah.
I have an even better
Almost
idea.
Works.
Skip bash, go for Python.
Yeah, and we've got book recommendations. I'm going to say the Shell Scripting Bible. Google it. He's got effective awk programming.
If you're just a nerd in general, this one. Oh no! Why?
Yeah, your webcam is out of focus.
Yeah. This one, it's called Code by Charles Pretzold. It is not a programming tutorial book. It is a mindset book.
Kind of book. Yeah. I did want to respond. Somebody in the chat was giving some good advice. If you want to learn Bash scripting, he said, learn DD and study it. There's nothing you will not be able to do.
No, I'm actually serious. Keep Bash, go for Python.
I have fixed hard drives using DD.
Yeah. There it is, the shell script. Yeah, that book right there. That is a great way to learn just basic command line stuff, and of course beginner shell scripting stuff.
It's by Richard Blum and Christine Bresnan.
I have the exact same book on that bookshelf behind me. But that's
It
good
also
book.
brings up the discussion that I see some people are having, and that is some users are having trouble with the idea that they are asking how to do something or how to change something. And most often the advice will be run so-and-so command in a terminal. And their complaint often is why are almost every advice revolving around the terminal. And the reason is that all of you know this, but for those watching, the reason is that almost universal across the various distributions. The command that you are using works on across the board, and the only difference is where things are stored, or because Debian derivatives versus Red Hat derivatives, and there's a few changes. But yeah.
Now, let me respond to this super chat here from Option Select. He says there's a Linux command line book available free under Creative Commons. Half of the book is about shell scripting. The book is a great resource. All right. That is very nice to know.
There is also one that I used. I wanted to learn Vim properly, and by accident, when you're watching something, another video comes related to something, and in the video he suggested Vimeo podcast. There's someone Vimcast. It's a British guy, I think. You have 50 or some short videos, about 5 or 15 minutes long, on how to do various things about how to do this and that in Vim, and it's highly recommended.
And I was talking about Murray, one of the patrons. He was having trouble joining. He responded, trying to connect through Firefox and Chrome on the web. He gets to the screen with the name of the room, but nothing to click on to join.
Maybe you need to enter a name.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think you need to enter a name for it.
I've never actually tried to connect through the web, so I
always
don't,
do. I always do, and it
No, I
always
don't know.
just
So what
it
you do
shows
is
me.
go to meet.jit.c, then there will be a text field for putting whatever the room name happens to be in, and then a button next to it says Start Meeting. So once you've gone and done that, you just need to go and make sure that if you want to talk, right, or if you want to be seen, then you just have to go and give your browser permission to capture your audio and video.
Or you can just do meet.jit.sc/name of room, and it will skip the whole.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that does work. Yeah, you could just do the URL / and then name of room.
Yeah. Fun part about the Jitsi domain, the meet.jit the SC domain. The SC is a Slovenian domain.
I mean,
Right. Yeah.
do you really blame them?
No, but yeah, that's a Slovenian domain. That's domain of my country.
All right. Well, hopefully he'll get that worked out. Like I said, I've never actually used the web interface. I'm using the app image, so maybe he could, if he hasn't tried the app image, I don't know. He may have tried that too.
Hey,
I know Murray loves app images. So
there you go.
Hey, DT, can you hear me now? It's Murray.
I can hear you.
Ah, there we go.
But you are Root. You are not Murray.
Oh my goodness!
Wow.
Has the god of our operating system shown up here?
You can't win them all.
Well, nice thing is we can tell Murray to do something just by saying, "Hey, sudo."
I don't sudo. I finally got in with the app image. I didn't know there was an app image, but when you said it, I tried it and it worked.
Yeah, that's the only Jitsi I've ever used. I've had my app image of Jitsi for like a year and a half, and I always open it because I only open Jitsi once a month, so it makes sense not to have a big program installed. I just keep the app image.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. So
which I know people get app images are bloated. No, actually, app images are unbloat because I don't have anything my package manager has to constantly be worrying about updating because I have that app image. And I don't know, you can debloat a system with app images. People take the whole bloat thing too seriously. I hate people
I just remembered something. Now that you mentioned app images, I don't know why. I don't know when you mentioned the using app image for Jitsi, I just remembered something.
Mm-hmm.
One of the last Hey DTs, when you had that request for the challenge for only using TTY. If you read the comment section, I posted another challenge for you.
Now, which one?
To only use the browser.
Oh, yeah.
That would actually be fun to see you do that.
Specifically, only use LibreWolf.
I probably could.
Browser.
Because
let's be clear.
Because I don't know about recording videos inside the browser. I could stream every day from the browser, though.
You can record from the browser.
Let's say recording all that recording any video should be left out because that's for your job. That's how you bring us content. But like usage, like file editing, terminal, everything else in a browser. And
I could create thumbnails inside the browser. I mean, there's web interfaces for.
Yeah, you can
pull
the terminal inside the browser.
Yeah. The TTY thing, because people are like, oh, you can record a terminal session or a TTY set. Yeah, I can record the keystrokes and everything, but
actually,
you can pull up a whole terminal inside your web browser.
Browser to SSH into your machine.
Yeah.
You can also have a text editor in your browser that has everything.
Oh yeah, the browser is easy. Yeah, the browser would be I wouldn't say it's easy, but it's at least feasible.
I have a text editor on my system that runs in a browser that has everything, including a terminal.
Is Emacs available inside the browser?
No, it's called Visual Studio Code server, or more specifically,
believe it or not,
server.
VS Code actually works surprisingly well in the browser compared to actually the desktop application.
Well, I would expect it to work well in BigPod's browser because he's using Microsoft Edge for his browser.
I'm actually there is a bit of a change we need to do to actual VS Code.
BigPod, can I ask you a question? And I want the truth. Are you running Windows 11 today?
No.
Okay.
Now I'm on Ubuntu Mate. Windows 11 is installed and was installed as soon as they did the insiders previews. The moment they did, I updated my Windows 10 install because I wanted it to break, but it didn't break.
Yeah. So you're a dual booter.
Yeah.
Yeah. You keep them on separate drives, or
No.
no?
Same drive. No problem.
And no grub problems.
No boot problems. I'm using UEFI.
Okay.
That's
I'm actually smart like that. Unlike many people.
But I've did the same, and it keeps messing with Windows updates regularly.
With MBR, there are so many problems. With UEFI, there is no problems. You just need to
I did
know
the
how
same
to set up.
with UEFI and GPT, and it keeps messing. And I put it on separate drives now.
There is a secret. You need to create two boot partitions, two EFI partitions.
Okay.
That's all you need to do.
So I need to create another one on the same drive, and it should do the trick.
Actually, both of my EFI partitions are on a separate hard drive because I didn't want to skimp on the size of my.
So you are using two different drives.
Yes, one of them is storage drive. I'm using my. I have a SSD and I have a hard drive. I didn't want to skimp on my size of my SSD, so I put EFI on hard drive because why not? Yeah. It is read like every day once or twice or maybe 3 times, and that's it. No matter how slow it is.
I did dual boot 21 years ago. I was running Windows 98 on one partition, and on the other partition I had Corel Linux 1.2. It was the last Linux version that Corel did before Microsoft bought them and strongly told them to not do it again. And I had on Windows, I had the Norton Utilities installed, and one of the programs was checking Norton distro.tube. I think it was a part of the boot sequence, and among the things that it checked was that the MBR records is correct, and that the file table is correct, and so on. And one day after having this dual boot for 6 months, it said that the file system table or the MBR record was incorrect. So it fixed it without giving me a chance to tell it no. And that was the last time I had dual boot on that system. And I never did dual boot again after that.
Well, I am lucky enough that I've never had to boot Windows on my home computer.
I do for games. That's the real reason I do it.
Yeah, I dual booted a little bit when I first, not Windows, but I dual booted several different versions of Linux when I was first, coming to Linux as a desktop user full time, because you don't know what version, what distro you want to run. And I had the same problems. Sometimes a distro would be a little aggressive on their updates, and grub would get all messed up. And after a while, you realize it's just not worth it. Dual booting. Just pick something and run it.
I'm gonna tell you a great story. There was a time, I believe it was 2017, before Big Pog became Linux desktop user. He had
way back in the day.
he had a portable hard drive that is somewhere in this room, but can't remember where. Oh, I found it. There it is. This is the portable hard drive.
Running Windows Vista.
It's open right now. I pulled the lid off. But it did have 14 or 15 different operating systems installed, and it worked for over a year.
I ran into a very unique problem with my System 76 Lemur Pro, where I decided I was going to install as many distributions as I possibly could on it. And I got to 22 distros, and then Grub would no longer make a config file.
Yeah.
Wow.
It turned out
UEFI allows you to make 128 partitions.
Hold on. UEFI does, but System 76's core boot that they put on their laptops does not. And I ran into that, and I got that bug fixed. So, if you're going to be running 30 plus distributions installed on the hardware of your System 76 computer, you have me to thank for it.
Well,
Because I'm the one that discovered that bug.
You're the one who discovered
Well-
that bug by doing something that I don't know if anybody else would do.
You're
I
exactly
would have
right.
marked that as not a
me-
bug, will not fix.
for me, it was I wanted to try every Linux. Basically,
Yeah.
that's what I wanted to do. And so I installed it on this USB hard drive. How I did that was I passed it through to VMware Workstation VM that I use as a CD, just basically just installation medium. I passed this USB hard drive as a normal hard drive, because otherwise nothing would install on it, because it was USB hard drive, and many things have a bit of problem with that. So I installed all 15 different operating systems, which included everything from actual Linux distros to a Windows install. I had just for fun, wanted to see if it will actually work on such a horrible mess. And what I used this USB hard drive for, I used it to run Linux on school computers while I was at school, so I didn't have to use the horrible mess that was school Windows installs, because those were always broken.
Oh my goodness.
And basically, if a computer was broken, I said, I'm going to use it, because I knew that there is a big chance this will boot. And it always did.
I did want to respond. Somebody in the chat, they probably are a new Linux user because they're asking, can we recommend a beautiful Linux distribution?
Yes, it's called /r/Unix porn.
There is
No.
I can tell you, there is one with a beautiful logo. And Joshua, if you can move yourself a bit to the left,
Yeah,
you're going to
not
see
that one
beautiful
either.
logo. That's the only thing beautiful about Gentoo. It's the logo.
All right. So if you're new,
A little bit
Manjaro
more to the
KDE is
left.
really good.
Just a little bit more to the left. A little bit more. A little bit more. That's
keep
better.
going.
There we go.
All right. Stay there. You're perfect. Yeah, somebody in the chat also mentioned Garuda. Garuda makes some beautiful desktops, including their KDE Plasma as well. Kubuntu with KDE Plasma.
Wow.
Lubuntu might work for you. Ubuntu Mate
has a great team.
Just
That
out
is-
of the
that's
box.
The most
Out of
beautiful
the
thing.
box.
I was actually going to ask you about the theming because I know you guys worked a lot.
Oh yes, the
On
theme
the-
is great. You should totally use my Gentoo port of the Ubuntu Mate Yaru theme. I'm gonna have it available in my own eClean or eBuild repository for you guys here shortly.
Yeah.
So that way the Gentoo community can experience the beauty that is.
But why do you need an e-build for it? People can just download it and throw it in user share themes. It won't
Because
more-
then you can use Portage to install it.
Ooh.
Oh, that's true.
And it will update every so often
Yeah, then
when we
yeah.
think of doing an update, which is
No,
every
every so once in a blue moon.
Is there ever theme bug fixes? I wonder, like
Actually,
security
I think
fixes.
We didn't have bug fixes.
I
We
wish
didn't
If
have
I
bug
had-
anyone who's going to have some team bug fixes, it has to be you, DT, on the your theming works on a wide screen, but not on a 4x3 screen.
Yeah, well, I designed it for 1920 by 1080, just because that was a good mid ground.
Oh, so does
Obviously-
it work for 3440 by 1440?
It can. You just have to edit the main.qml, the config file.
You're telling me I have to modify config files? You're a man after my own heart.
Well, the great thing is, if you guys have some of these wide screens and you feel like adjusting a config to make it work on your resolution, push it to my GitLab, and I'll save it. That way, maybe I'll have a config for every single screen resolution there is. That way, people can just select which config they need for their monitors.
I'll push my triple head.
Really?
You can use that for Xmonad. It does work. It was kind of fiddly, but it does work. Triple head with different resolutions.
Yeah, just name it whatever,
Yeah.
and push it as a new config. And
Really
I haven't
silly
pulled it yet 'cause I
question
don't use
because I'm a new
SDVM.
because I'm new. It's supporting it at Patreon. I'm a new sub in general. Where is your Git? What's your Git repository? Where?
GitLab.com/DWT1.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. GitLab.com/DWT1. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And welcome to the club.
Yeah, on my distro, Magea, and I think also Open Manjiva does the same since we came from the same fork. There is a process running in the login that it dynamically changes the background image to fit the resolution of the screen you're running. So that if you change it within a few seconds, the image is changed, and they have several images for 6 or 7 different images, variations of the same that fits every resolution.
Yeah.
So that's one way to do it.
That's one way people do basically anything when you go with different resolutions. You have all the different assets of all the different resolutions. That's why everything is so big right now, especially games, because every game has for every resolution, which is how you get Call of Duty that is 300 gigs in size. Because we need to start working on a better scaling for images.
They need to start
Yeah.
selling
Yes.
different versions again.
It's called Elementary OS, where they are the only ones that have done scaling right so far.
Well,
Yeah.
what we need to go back to like the box versions where it says like, it'll say QHD on the side or FHD, and like how we used to have the EVGA and CGA box versions.
Just let me select it from a menu in Steam. That's all I need. Or
Coffee Addict in the chat, it says, "Hey, we want to write a kernel with you, DT." Well, we're already writing a kernel. It's called the GNU Herd. Just Google it. So we're getting close with the Herd kernel too.
You guys are so close.
I have
for the last 25 years.
Hey, GNU Geeks runs really good with the Herd kernel.
It does. I've gotten
if you have the hardware to support
Matrix and then watching it crash.
For the last, for the what? 30? You're so close for the last 30 years, or is it more?
Yeah.
No, we started. Well, I say we. The GNU project started in '84.
Yeah.
Okay. When Linux
that's a long time ago.
Linux kernel came out. Let's be clear, because Linux came in kernel or the operating system. So when Linux kernel came out, you guys were so close, or they were so close, but now you guys are still so close.
Does so close involve like generating a README file?
Well, READMEs are bloat.
Oh, you're right.
Totally.
You're right.
Totally.
You should have a.
Is not wrong.
If they wrote a README, it's going to be an org because they all use Emacs anyway. You wouldn't be able to read that thing.
Sir, I have an announcement to make for you.
You switched to Emacs.
Yes.
Really?
I have been using Emacs for 3 days now, and I can't figure out how to get the hell out.
Well,
there is a special button on every computer that
let me tell you.
Shuts off
I know a way.
They think it's called power.
I know. Open the computer, pull the hard drive SSD out, and replace it with a new one, and then start over.
Yeah, depending on what version of Emacs you're using, if you're using standard GNU Emacs, Control-C, Control-X to exit. If you're using something with evil mode, like Doom Emacs or Spacemacs, :Q, just like in Vim.
Oh, okay. Just checking.
Or if you're using a tiling window manager, hit the dang key binding to close a window, and it just goes away.
My very first tiling window manager experience, I accidentally deleted the key binding to close windows.
Yeah.
So I had to figure out the hard way of opening up the terminal and typing in this wonderful utility that I'm sure that everybody's heard of before called Xkill.
Yeah,
And
Xkill
killing
works.
Windows that way.
You could.
That was not how I first learned how to exit Vim, by the way.
Most programs have a way to exit built into them anyway.
Well, yeah.
Like in the menu systems, or if you're using a terminal, just type exit and you'll close the terminal.
I remember I had the shell access to a shell service 17 or 18 years ago. And they didn't have my preferred editor installed. And they suggested that I run Nano, or what it was called before, the Pine editor.
Pico?
Yeah, Pico.
Yeah.
And that turned out to be a symlink to Ed.
Nah.
Ed's okay.
Yeah, I never managed to figure out how I was using the thing, much less how to quit it. So I had to kill the SSH connection.
I got tired of the whole Ed is the standard editor meme that everybody responds to every text editor question to. Ed's the standard editor. Nobody uses Ed. So I made that video about Ed a few months back, mainly just to shut people up. It's like, here's this wonderful editor you guys like to talk about. Look how old and dated, and I'm sure it was fantastic in the 1960s. But even by the time we got to the 1980s, it was outdated. Once you were actually plugging monitors, proper monitors, to a computer, instead of doing everything at a teletype.
To a computer?
Yeah.
I thought we all just used teleprinters.
Well,
but it is nice to at least know how Ed works if you ever get stuck into it.
Yeah.
So I know enough that I could edit a line or two in a text file if I had to with Ed. But I wouldn't write a whole bunch of code using Ed.
Well, I remember a university in England somewhere. They have a YouTube channel where one of their lab guys they have a channel. And one time, Brian Kernighan, I think his name is, one of the old Unix gurus. He told the story about how grep came about, and yeah, that was quite an interesting story.
Grep and sed came from Ed because of
so as well.
Yeah, grep. There's a common command inside the Ed editor. It's G/ and then regular expression RE/ and then P to print.
Yeah.
Well, that spells grep. And that was one of the most common things you did in Ed. So they just made a program that did that for you called grep. So that was how grep came about.
And one of the other half of there were two guys who was Dennis Ritchie was one of them, and he died a couple of years ago. And there is the other guy. He had a talk on in the US last year or the year before. And he told how grep came about, and he didn't tell how he coded, but how it came, and he came into a point where he stopped pushing everything he did to the /bin directory because he didn't want to be the guy who told everyone how they should do things. And one day the sysadmin or the one of the lab admins came to him and he said he wanted he missed something to do editing a little easier, or he wanted to search a file, but the file was so big that he couldn't load it in memory, so it was a hassle to find what he wanted. And he already had this utility, and he said he was going to sleep to think about it until the day after. And he said that the thinking was really him fixing the bugs that he knew about it, and he moved it to the /bin directory. And the admin said that this was exactly what he wanted, and this guy had this utility for a month.
Yeah, it's really interesting how Ed, so much of the start of Unix and C programming, and it revolved around getting a text editor that worked properly and doing basic text processing with Ed and then Grip and Sid. You mentioned Brian Kernighan. He's actually very important because he's the K in AWK.
Yeah.
AWK actually stands for Aho, Weinberg, and Kernighan. And he was one of the guys that created the AWK programming language or scripting language.
And C.
Yeah. And C. Yeah. And yeah, Dennis Ritchie, who passed away a couple of years ago, of course, was very important in all of that as well.
Was it Ken Thompson, the other guy too?
Ken Thompson, yes.
That was the guy that I was thinking about.
A matter of fact, I would argue that Ritchie and Thompson are probably maybe the most important people in the 20th century as far as tech, but they don't get the kind of press that people like Bill Gates or Steve Jobs. Nobody knows about those guys, but think about, the creation of Unix and the C programming language. That's much more important than anything Steve Jobs ever did. I mean, what did he do? I mean, really.
Well,
one of the things that Steve Jobs did was one of the qualities that Steve Jobs had. He had the ability to make things that people wanted because they look nice.
Yeah. The difference is between these people you mentioned, that Bill Gates and Steve Jobs are important because they brought technology to normal people. Yeah. They enable technology to be used by normal people. Whether Steve Jobs made it actually good to look at and actually something normal users wanted.
Well, he brought us the iPhone, right? That's what
we had Palm Pilots before, but when iPhone came out, that was an explosion of smartphones.
So what you're saying is we need a Steve Jobs of Linux to bring it to the masses.
Yes.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
But you're not going to who would care about user experience more than technical.
But the problem is you only have a few big corporations involved in Linux, and they're all out there. They're being like Steve Jobs. They're trying to market, but they're marketing to server, cloud, enterprise. They're not marketing.
Not marketing, but actually making user experience better, which is what we're lacking big time.
Yeah.
I remember, I don't know what piece of software I was working with, and I remember I was talking with people why it doesn't work well enough, and the guys actually said because it is made to be for a people who are technically. I believe it was actually I was actually like comparing Photoshop with GIMP and why Photoshop is light years better from user experience standpoint.
Yeah.
And I used both of them side by side. Like, actually, it was in same day, one after another. And I gotta say, I was like, that was the first time I used Photoshop. I was just like breezing through the things I had to do. While I used GIMP times and times again, and I couldn't. Even then, I couldn't get everything.
Well,
done
you came
easily.
What's funny, you came to GIMP when they really improved the user interface too. If you'd have used GIMP 10 years ago, they used to have this weird multi-window layout where like instead of having everything in one box, it was in 3 different windows that floated on your screen. And everyone hated that. And everyone told them, like, this is not the way to do it. And it took them forever. It was just a couple of years ago that they built that single window mode and enabled it by default.
I used GIMP like what? 7-8 years ago when I first started using GIMP.
There was a fork that I tried. I remember reading about, and I tried it. And I don't remember how I liked it, but I tried it. There was a few guys who wanted the GIMP to
glimpse
to be renamed
to look like Photoshop.
There's a fork. Yeah.
Yeah, and they named it GIMP Shop.
People have asked me to take a look at that. Basically, all it is just rearranging some of the toolbars. And instead of having that big clump of things, you have it, a single column on the side of all your tools, kind of like in Photoshop. It really, though, I mean, it's minor changes, really. I I don't think that makes too big a difference to most users.
Yeah, the other stuff that are in Photoshop that are so much more usable. Not just the toolbar. Toolbar isn't the problem. I can use a toolbar. Problem is that everything else you do is so much more polished. Again, back to the conversation about user experience. Adobe puts millions of dollars into making user experience much better. They get telemetry on what people use, what they don't use, so they know what they need to hide, what they need to make more prominent. That's what makes it better.
There's only 3 or 4 developers for GIMP, though, as far as people that actually put real time into it. There's only like 3 guys that are working on it.
Big Pot, I would make a suggestion. If there's something that you want, you can put in a PR.
Yeah.
You can. You certainly
can. And because there's so few people that work on GIMP,
I so rarely use either of those 2 pieces of software that I can't quantify what exactly I want. I just know I had a much easier time, even first time editing in Photoshop than I do every time in GIMP. That usability and how it is usable is so much better.
Well, the problem is money. Is none of the guys that work on GIMP, none of them can work full time on GIMP. They all just contribute part time.
And you cannot do user studies. User studies, where basically what Microsoft does. I know it because I participated in a couple of user studies by Microsoft. They basically, you basically first do a Q&A in a website. And then if you want, you can put your email and you can arrange a date where they actually talk to you. They half an hour talk, they show you examples, you talk about what you want changed. I did for .NET and ASP.NET Core, the new templates. That was the last one I did.
In the chat, somebody was saying
talking, and it's basically that's what enables them to make it so much better.
Now, GIMP is frustrating to do some simple things because somebody was saying that they had to actually Google on how to draw a triangle in GIMP. GIMP, one of the big complaints about GIMP compared to things like Photoshop is shapes. They don't have an easy way to do a lot of standard shapes. Drawing circles is kind of a pain in GIMP. Doing things like stars and triangles and stuff like that, they don't make it easy.
If you look at it, the way of how GIMP's name is made, it's called the GNU Image Manipulation Program. And manipulating images as they are, it actually does a pretty good job of.
It's a photo editor. Is really what it's.
If you want, and I can keep, this is kind of part of my realm too, is that, if you wanted something that did that, you have to use Krita or you have to use Inkscape. Yeah. Because it's like in the Adobe world, there's things you do in Illustrator and there's things you do in Photoshop, and you really are gonna get yourself into a bad time if you try to do everything in Photoshop.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this is speaking of, you mentioned that there is maybe 2 or 3 guys who work on GIMP. This is how almost every software in Linux is developed. There is a few guys who talk amongst themselves that they need something to do something, and they can't find something that works well enough or doesn't do it at all, so they started doing their own thing, and people start to use it.
Well, I mentioned it with GIMP because GIMP is weird because GIMP has, I don't know, countless millions of installs on computers around the world because it's cross-platform, Windows, Linux. So many people use GIMP, but they don't generate any kind of income to where they can hire 1 or 2 of these guys full-time. It's just a few guys contributing when they can, and that's sad.
It is extremely sad because I guarantee that everybody is using GIMP somewhere on their Linux desktop installation because GIMP is the originator of the GTK toolkit. Because that is called the GIMP toolkit. Is not the GNOME toolkit. Is GIMP toolkit.
Well, they may have been the originators of it, but they're not in control of it anymore because GNOME's running that now.
Well, the problem is this what I'm mentioning with how just comparing 2 pieces of software, how it is rampant in many of the creative software we have on Linux. Same with video editors. And no matter how DT likes Kdenlive, that thing is horrible compared to anything.
Kdenlive has its quirks, but I will say with Kdenlive, they keep getting better with each release. They keep adding stuff. Like you see real improvement with Kdenlive, much more so than some of the other stuff.
I remember I was editing at school. I was editing something with Premiere Pro. So I basically wanted to make it. I wanted to see if how quickly I can make the same thing in Premiere Pro, in DaVinci Resolve, and in Kdenlive. And that was about 2 years ago. I basically Premiere Pro and Resolve, I did it like that. Kdenlive, they didn't offer the features that are industry standard for doing multicam. They didn't even have those features available.
I think it's still developed by one guy, though. It's still, right?
Multicam port came about a year ago, so yeah.
Yeah, Kdenlive at least. The reason Kdenlive, I think, gets better all the time is because being part of KDE. KDE does actually try to raise funds, especially toward the end of the year. Once we get close to the end of the year, everybody's going to be asking for end of the year donations. And KDE probably gets a lot of donations from the community because so many people use KDE Plasma. And of course, some of that money does go help fund things like Kdenlive as well, which is one of their applications, part of the KDE suite of applications.
Speaking of the chat room, I need to comment on one of the comments. Martin Hertz is commenting on my way of speaking. I do a lot of The reason I do that is when I speak English. English is not my first language. I often stutter on the first sound of the first letter in the word, and that's what's happening. So I'm nothing that I can do anything about.
Well, this is.
I just wanted to comment on that.
Well, you just have to ignore the chat because obviously this is not like any kind of proper video content where we're going to edit it and try to speak properly, because I'm going to and a lot when I talk live too. That's just the way I generally talk anyway. When I actually have to record something, I edit out a whole bunch of pauses and what the hell am I going to say next?
At the screen and
like there's so many cuts in my videos when I have to actually edit a proper video. But this is a live stream.
I guarantee you,
people just gonna have to deal with it.
Comments saying that I don't know what I'm talking about, and that is probably true.
But your experience is your own unique experience.
Yep.
I'm gonna just say problems of being for your language, first language not being English. I have to deal with my problems as well sometimes, and that's how it is.
I think it was probably learning a second language. I haven't even done that yet.
Even native English speakers can't speak English very well.
Oh yeah, I mean, I get questions all the time from native English speakers about they wanting to start YouTube channels, but they have trouble speaking on camera because they turn on the camera and they can talk normal in real life, but for some reason it just all comes out wrong when they actually try to record themselves. Some people, a lot of people have real trouble speaking in public. Like, you can speak fine around your friends and family, but hey, put them in front of a podium at a church or a gymnasium or something. Hey, you give a few words, and now they have nothing to say, or they just have this weird look.
And that even happens during the Oscars award once a year. In interviews afterwards, some of the actors when they are after they have been up and given the awards, and then a few days afterwards they have some interviews, and quite often some of them said that they had written down what they were going to say, and then the moment happened and they forgot everything.
That's exactly. At the end of the day, even they are actors. I used to act things. I used to act at school, and I could do it in front of an audience, like no problem. Nowadays, this is really the only thing I can do that is like that. Like
Well, doing
I don't-
YouTube is
I'm
kind of
not
like being an actor
actually-
because
anything too
Yeah.
nervous. I was doing interviews. I was basically as nervous as hell, and it wasn't the interview. It was me in front of someone.
Yeah.
Yep.
I remember
Yeah.
seeing an interview with the actor who did the main role in The King's Speech, the movie about the
Yeah,
and
Yeah, I know.
yeah,
Yeah.
and he had to learn how to stutter because the king stuttered.
well, I mean, I had to learn how to pretend like I was scared of that little plush gnome behind me for that video I did a few days ago. You know, I had to work on that thing.
Oh, that's
that
been a
looked like that
great
was
video.
looked like that was a simple video. I spent like 4 hours making that little 30-second, 45-second.
Well, you know what they say. They say for every minute of material from presentation, it takes an hour of prep time.
Well, but
Yeah.
let's remember something, that at the end of the day, when camera is on, we're all not what we are in reality. That's the one thing you should know. If you ever are connected to show business, they will tell you that that whenever someone is in front of a camera, they are acting, even if they are acting themselves.
Yep.
The only
Yeah,
time
I
my
think
camera
some
is on,
people go too far with it though.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
some people are not themselves to the point where it gets to the point they hate
Yeah.
doing this.
They hate
right?
themselves on the inside.
Right. Because it's like, man, I don't. That's not even fun. Yeah.
What is referred to as going to metal.
Yeah.
Well, there's some people that are what we say always on. You know,
Right.
Yeah.
they can't. Never really know their true self.
Yeah.
Because they can't even in interviews.
Sometimes they don't know through themselves anymore.
Right.
And I would say that what works for some people doesn't work for other people. There is no one size fits all. Hey, this is how you get in front of a camera, or this is how you get in front of an audience. This is how you do it, because the way you do it's going to be different than the way I do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Not
much
everybody
is
can be
true.
Steve Harvey.
That much
And
is
I do, like I said, I get questions about people wanting to start doing YouTube and video content about various topics, but people, hey, can you give me some tips and things like that? And I've done 1 or 2 videos where I've discussed some of the basics of getting started as far as equipment and creating thumbnails. Thumbnails are important. Actually, one of the things I thought. Yes, they take a long time, and I think most people, when they first start a YouTube channel, don't realize that the thumbnails are as important as the video, or maybe in some cases more important. 'Cause-
yeah.
When you first start, you should probably go with auto-generating thumbnails with something like a title and all that.
Yeah.
But so you should first work on presentation and everything like that. But after that, the next important thing is thumbnail, because that is what draws people in.
Yeah.
But even if you have a great thumbnail, if you do not have good presentation style, good posture on camera, good everything like that, then no matter how good your thumbnail and title are, people won't watch it, and that's what you want: watch time.
And
Well,
Garrett,
there's-
And also
presentation
you want, and also you
is important.
you need to do videos about something that you like to talk about.
Yeah.
Derek, you were thinking of getting a green screen. Are you still thinking of it, or you're going to get one?
I had thought about it there for a little while, but I never purchased one, and I kind of forgot about it, to be honest. But I had thought about it.
I'll
I thought it
probably
would.
get one soon.
Yeah.
Well, the thing too is that there's actually in the home improvement, or the I guess you'd say the homesteading community, a few years ago, there was a controversy about clickbait thumbnails.
There's always a controversy about
Yeah.
clickbait thumbnails.
In the home community. Okay.
The homesteading,
That's weird.
yeah.
Oh,
so,
homesteading.
like,
Okay.
yeah. The self.
Well, let me give you an example of why thumbnails are important. So say me and Big Pod and Josh all make a video about how bad snap packages are. And somebody does a YouTube search for snap packages are bad. And the first 3 thumbnails they see are me, Big Pot, and Josh. But Big Pot and Josh, they make a normal, kind of boring thumbnail. But I have a picture of me holding my nose and doing a funny face, and then it says, snaps are bad.
Oh, I thought it was your logo.
Well, people are going to click on that thing before they ever click.
Because you're going to stand out of the crowd.
Right.
I've come to a determination about thumbnails. You guys see this fish here that's digitally drawn behind me?
No.
Yeah.
That is worth at least 20 views.
The powered by Gen2?
Yes. Just put that picture in your thumbnail.
Someone's going to.
The rest of the content doesn't matter, and I guarantee you'll get at least 20 views.
And those 20 views will be from you. We know that.
Most likely, yes.
I guess next month I'm going to have to get a green screen behind me and have Arch, by the way, since
Your
we're
background's
just
not
off
bad because
your
background's not bad because you got blinky lights.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
well,
mesmerizing.
I have a nice depth of field because that server rag's got some good distance, so you get that bokeh effect
If
from
you could
the
kind of get
lens.
the angle that you had before, because your camera's a little bit, I think, a little higher than it was in your home studio.
It is.
Yeah, so like if you could kind of like bring it down and maybe bring the back focus up a little bit, or not the back focus, but the top of the camera view, I think that would be a good juxtaposition of their background with you. But if you're going to do a green screen, it doesn't matter.
Well, one of the problems too with this camera is I actually do detach it and move it around, so a lot of times it never gets put back in exactly the same place. So it's like a slightly different angle and from one video to the next.
Well,
That makes sense.
in 1 month, I might have a green screen, depending on how my job hunting goes.
Yeah, cool.
I have
So,
a green screen, but yeah.
So you're starting that internship at Microsoft?
No.
No.
I think he is.
Edge tester.
Not gonna. I'm not gonna move to Seattle. That's
Edge quality control.
No. He's going to be part of the VS Code team.
No,
Well,
what's
see-
going to happen is that Big Pot is that I'm the one that's hiring Big Pot. He's going to come here to my little corner of Ohio, and he's going to help me produce a Gen2 based distribution for the masses. Because this
Not gonna
distribution
happen.
is terribly underused.
Well, you already got the name.
That's
You already got the name. Gentoo Mate.
I mean, just
That's
not gonna happen. I'm not traveling from. I'm not moving from my little corner of Slovenia. Which Slovenia is already little, so you know how little my corner is.
Oh, I can imagine his. I can imagine your experience is that nice small town, kind of feeling.
I live in a village.
Right, that's what I mean,
I also
yeah,
live in
so-
a village. It's next to a lake in the middle of a cornfield, and it also gets cold in here in winter.
Well,
Is that little lake effect?
I had 50 meters or between 50 and 500 meters, depending on which side I turn around. I have forest.
That's awesome.
Oh, I
And-
don't have that.
In any direction, either 50 or 500 meters, I can get into a forest, and I can walk around in a forest. That's a great thing. That's one of the main reasons I'm not living here.
Yeah, I have the same thing. I have on one side of the road going by my house, there is a forest, and on the other side there is a big field. So,
And
I'm
one
in
great
a
thing is
farmland.
6 kilometers in one direction, and I have a fifth biggest city in the country.
Can't go wrong there. Yeah.
So I can walk to the city. That's 1 hour walk, and I
Well-
can get myself anything.
I mean, I'm sure you'll make enough at Microsoft that you can fly from Slovenia to Redmond, Washington, and back, whenever you want.
Well, no.
Might even be
No,
a
he
daily
said-
You
commute.
see, to work in Microsoft, you need to be at least for some time living in Seattle or Redmond.
Yeah, it's in
It's
near
a-
Seattle.
it's a
Yeah.
it's a hard stop. You need to be living there, even if you just apply. It's a hard
Right.
stop.
Well, I would think if they hired you for an important enough position, they would relocate you and pay for it.
Yeah.
Well, we
but,
would know that if he said that he was hired as a Windows tester, we'd know he would be lying.
Yeah.
Because we're all the guinea pigs.
If-
No,
I
he would
was-
actually be.
if I was going to Microsoft, I would be going to their .NET team.
Well, you would probably be working on something open source because that's what they're
Probably,
hiring for these days. Yeah.
.NET, basically.
Yeah, they're looking for open source developers now because they're transitioning.
They are trying to transition, and they have some teething problems, but it is slowly going well.
But I like it because I think the way Microsoft is going, I feel like they will push other companies like Google and Facebook and Apple to also embrace open source more because
at this I would like to commend Google. Google is also really good at doing open source.
Google has contributed a lot. Yeah, I would say Apple hasn't contributed anything.
Yeah, Apple
is not. They're $1 trillion company. If
they used to with the Darwin when they used to release.
But they haven't done anything with
not
that.
lately.
Cups. Cups.
Cups and basing Mac off of FreeBSD. I mean, we're talking about things that happened 35 years ago, right? We're talking about stuff that happened a long time ago.
Right. Oh yeah.
For
it's
Google,
like that comment. What have you done for me lately?
Right.
Yeah. For Google, I can say they're doing well with especially stuff like Kubernetes. They made that in open source. Kubernetes is basically one of the main things in servers nowadays.
I looked at the jobs for the Elixir programming language and the senior engineer. They wanted 4 years of functional programming, 2 years which were Elixir, but they wanted strong Git skills and they wanted strong cloud skills like AWS and Azure and other things as well. And I would think you would add Docker to that and Kubernetes. That's
if you have.
We just checked off everything on the list. Functional programming, heck, Haskell, check.
Checks on the
of the top 10 programming languages, not one of them is a functional programming language. It never has been.
There's a reason for that.
Which is the closest one.
They're not easy.
That reminds me of a job I saw last year. I think.
Right. Functional JavaScript was designed to be functional.
Technically, Python was also designed partially to be functional. At least it's a multi-paradigm, and one of the paradigms they can do is functional. Also, technically, you can do functional C#, but it's horrible. It's a multi-paradigm. Many of them are multi-paradigm. Like C# can.
But you have to do all sorts of weird things, even in the ones that are purported as, hey, this is multi-paradigm. Like in Python, you have to do all sorts of weird things to keep from getting a gigantic stack if you're going to try to not.
Yeah.
Actually.
I've started learning Elixir, which is the same idea as Haskell, but it comes from the real world instead of the academic world. And you were mentioning, Derek, about your XML and key bindings that you were thinking of using Haskell instead of using sed and awk and cut and all that. Mm-hmm. That's what I was looking at for Elixir too, because of the pattern matching in there, and it's really good. The Elixir has great for handling binary strings and pattern matching. So there is an Elixir programmer out there to parse a PNG file, for instance, and things like that. So I was noted that too, because I'm looking at Elixir for the same thing. And it looks pretty good. It's like Python. It's interpreted, compiled to an intermediate code and then run. So it's very Pythonish. And BPOD would like it because there's no spacing indentation. You don't have to worry about whether you're using spaces or tabs.
Well, Big Pod's second favorite language is Python. His first favorite, of course, is JavaScript.
Big Pod's best and most preferred programming language on Earth is our Lord and Savior, C.
No. The best language, and nobody can stop
Big Pod already promised in his
C#. I was just going to say
that he was going to rewrite all of his tools, his programming languages in C. He's going to delete all the main pages and documentation, remove all the comments, and post everything on Cyclist.org.
I was hurt enough by C++. I don't want to be hurt by C.
Josh, you really should be learning Emacs Lisp, Josh, because if you're going to switch to Emacs, you're going to have to know it.
I am already learning Emacs List. But first of all, I am working on org mode, and I've been using org mode for the past 3 days because that's all I've launched the Emacs for was just org mode.
Well, that's all most people use Emacs for. Mainly is org mode is like the selling point.
I actually know the most popular functional languages.
No, really. F sharp. I was gonna say F sharp. That would make sense.
Microsoft again.
Yeah.
Well,
Microsoft all the time.
To think about it, C sharp is made by Microsoft. F sharp is made by Microsoft. The creator of Python is employed by Microsoft. The
Closure. Run.
Yeah, and one of the derivatives of Pascal, the guy who made it, is employed by Microsoft. He made C sharp. Turbo Pascal.
There's a comment in the chat room that the best
isn't that the start of the Mandalorian?
Yes.
Holy C, yeah.
It is the programming language that is the gift from God.
In Elixir, I wrote, it has functional programming, but the other thing about it is it processes. It's designed for multi-processing across CPUs and across computers. So I wrote a short little function that all it does is wait 6 seconds and then print a string to the terminal. And I launched 200,000 instances and put it in a loop. And you can watch it there. And the thing is, it won't lock up your system. It can't lock up your system because it's preemptive multitasking. Yeah. So you can watch the meters on the CPU cores. They all go to 80%, and they won't go any higher because the processors are backed out.
And if people are wondering what nerds do in their free time,
welcome to Nerdville. Well, honestly, I do a lot of multiprocessing nowadays, and the best way to do multiprocessing is whatever language you like, just use event-driven serverless. That's the easiest way to do it.
Josh, you use Go a bit, don't you?
I have been learning Go a little bit, but the problem with Go, the problem with Go, is that I
know it.
It's Go.
It's Google.
It's Go. It's a Google product.
Problem with Go,
and I have literally no use for learning Go.
Yeah, you do. If you want a job at Google, that's why people learn it.
But I don't want a job at Google.
Go, you're set for Kubernetes work. That's what Go is primarily used in Kubernetes, because Kubernetes is written in Go, and many tools interfacing with Kubernetes are written in Go. For example, one of the biggest uses for it is for Kubernetes operators. That's written either in Go or in Ansible or in Helm. Ansible and Helm are two different programs that do management of this stuff. So if you know Go, you're basically God in Kubernetes.
Yeah, my problem with Go is that I made the unfortunate mistake of learning Lua first.
Well, actually, I actually written PR for Go without knowing Go, or not for Go, but a program made in Go without knowing Go.
The only thing I do with Go is playing it. The game.
Well,
and somebody in the chat was saying that Microsoft wants their employees to learn Java to develop apps. I thought Java was pretty much dead now.
Java is dead, but yeah.
Java.
They're not developing things in Java. They're maintaining things in Java.
They're maintaining their own OpenJDK thing.
The thing that with the Java that is the web-based because the web launcher is removed from most browsers, but the Java itself is very much alive.
Java is very much alive, even though it should die a horrible fire. Look, last time I had to develop in it, I was going crazy.
Yeah, but isn't that a fairly agnostic platform for porting?
Yes,
programs
it can be.
like that.
But it's a horrible language. It's a horrible language.
So just to summarize, Big Pod, Python should die, JavaScript should die, Java should die. C# is the best.
No, Python shouldn't die. Python shouldn't die.
JavaScript
should die. Python
JavaScript should, okay.
Python can stay because it had its use. Its use isn't in programming for actual use, but for scripts.
Yeah, scripting.
On the other hand, JavaScript should die because there is no use for it anymore.
But Python, you can use Python for web frameworks. I mean, you can do all kinds of cool stuff.
Yeah.
With.
So we can do C#. C# you can write anything in. Basically,
I wrote a little bit of code in Python, and it brought in the tensor library. I didn't know it was going to do that. 1.2 gigs for the tensor library alone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. One good use for Python is it's a glue language. It glues different language together very well. That's why it is really good. And that's the only reason it should exist, because it glues languages really well. On the other hand, JavaScript a horrible mess. Nobody should use it. Everybody should use Rust, C#, or anything that compiles into WebAssembly. WebAssembly should be gone.
Okay, so all right. So Big Pod, here's what you do. You can run Clojure on the CLR and use all of the C# libraries for WebAssembly.
I know.
Or F#, and then you just wind up having a nice functional layer that compiles directly to WebAssembly, and there JavaScript can go down.
How long until we get a kernel level Python interpreter so we can write our kernel in Python?
No.
Well,
they've already moved to Rust.
Yeah, Rust.
Yeah, Python's next, right?
No. You want your kernel to be 10 years to boot?
Yeah, I mean, you were lucky that you got Linus Torvalds to say, okay, Rust is okay.
Hey,
because originally they weren't going to move to anything.
You guys might not realize this, but right now I'm running a world update on my Raspberry Pi. It has been running since yesterday.
Of course, and it will be compiling for the next 365 years.
Speaking of compiling, yesterday I realized I had not run an update on my system for my AUR packages in probably months. Like, I even forgot. Like, I should update the AUR packages installed on my computer.
You don't run your updates with your AUR?
Not usually, because usually they don't conflict with anything. They're not going to be dependencies usually for the stuff I installed through Pacman. So I just forgot about it. So I ran that update, and I didn't realize how many of those things I had installed and how many of them have to compile. I was updating for 2 hours, just my AUR packages.
Hey man, I compiled Chromium yesterday.
That's why I compile everything on a build server.
Okay, so instead of the AUR, I'm on Debian 10, and for the last 5 months I've been using Nix. I have about 290 packages I install through Nix now instead of apt-get, and they install all the ones I've got are all compiled. Not every Nix package is compiled. I had about 4 source ones, and I just didn't use them. And I had one that was bad build to begin with, but otherwise than that, they all just install right away without compiling. And the nice thing is, I have some scripts to do that, one to install Nix, one to install the packages. I can take those scripts, I copied them from my Debian 11 to Debian 12 and ran it unchanged, and it works on Debian 12. I copied it to KDE Neon, which is Ubuntu 2004, and it ran that unchanged. I copied it to Manjaro, and it ran that unchanged, and they get all the same versions of the programs on there. And so far it's been working really well. It's not perfect.
When I have a file manager, package manager that has same repositories wherever, you can do that. That's the real situation.
It's not perfect. Sometimes you install a package and the uninstall is a different name, but that doesn't happen often. You install nim, and to uninstall it, you uninstall nim-wrapper. There's a few things like that to get in there. But other than that, it's been perfect. And the other thing about it is each package has its own libraries with it, own glibc. So I had Rust on my Debian system and it stopped working. Now I get the current version through Nix. They're updated regularly. I've got the latest version of New Shell, which comes out every 3 weeks. So that's pretty good. I don't know about Core Utils. You mentioned Core Utils is 3.9 now, I think, Derek. And
there was a big update the last time we met. I think it had just come out that day. I forget what version they were on.
Do you know if it's updated on Arch?
Oh, I'm pretty sure by now, because a month is a long time.
Nix has not been updated. Nix is still 3.8.
Yeah.
Well, as we are talking, I now got a notification that Alacrity just finished building on my build server.
Yeah, and that's one of the people get mad at me sometimes because I recommend Alacrity, and then they try to build it on source-based distros, and of course it has to compile with Rust, and it takes a long time. Find a binary.
Not a problem.
No,
I already have Rust compiled.
Well, depending on your hardware, if you've got older hardware, it can take like 45 minutes or so. Like it's not a quick one.
Amazing.
Yeah, like on my machine, it'll compile quickly, but if you were doing this on a Pi,
of course,
you're gonna spend a couple hours probably compiling on that thing.
Well, thankfully, my Pi is rust free.
Well, my Alacrity builds on my build server because there is no Alacrity in Ubuntu, and I keep Alacrity for a second. Keep Alacrity for basically a backup. So if let's say a terminal of what I use is Mate terminal fails, I still have Alacrity.
But Alacrity has a snap.
Different. I know it has. I'm not going to use a snap of a terminal. Sorry,
no. Use a snap. You're on Ubuntu.
Me and DT have enough.
There's a snap. You should use a snap. You're on Ubuntu. You should use a snap.
What needs to happen is Debian needs to package Alacrity.
Actually, Alacrity is in fact in Debian right now. It is in the unstable repository, and will be making itself down to stable within the next 3 years.
Yeah, basically. No, it just needs to get to testing. That's enough for me.
It'll be in testing within about I think the average turnaround is 9 months.
No, I mean, Debian just had a release a year and a half ago. So the next version will be out in 2 to 4 years.
Debian had a release a couple of months ago.
Was it?
Yeah.
Was it that quick?
Debian 11 did come out. So
I thought it was further back than that.
You'd be making it down.
I think it was about 5 months ago, maybe.
5 months, yeah.
No. In August was package freeze.
That's right.
Okay. Yeah, August had was package to be free, so it's 6 months.
September or October when it came out. So last month it came out. Because I remember that we had package freeze because that's actually affected us with packaging Ubuntu Mate. That we had a package that is what a package freeze.
I updated about 4 months ago before it was frozen, and
so it has to be this September that it came out.
Yeah, Alacrity should be introduced into testing here in the next few months. Then.
Yeah.
Great. Then I won't have to compile it myself.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest complaints I get from viewers of the channel that use Debian-based distributions and they watch my stuff. They can't install Alacrity and they can't install Qtile.
That's Nix. I'm running Debian 10 with Nix, and I've got all that stuff in there. And Nix is not that hard if you're using a window manager as opposed to a desktop manager.
Murray, I need to stop you here because you are the unusual. You're the very first person that I've met that actually uses Nix. However, you're using 209 Nix packages and you are not using Nix OS.
That's right. 290.
What is wrong with you?
190. Wow.
Because
I know a guy who says Nix is the future, and I totally don't believe him.
Well, it should be the future.
I know several hundred people that believe that Nix is the future, and Murray is the first one that I've met that actually uses Nix.
Well, I know a guy who believes Nix is the future, but at the same time is the lead maintainer of Ubuntu Mate.
I do think that the way Nix and Geeks does their packaging is the right way to do it. It's just we're never going to get everybody to change to that kind of packaging format.
It has to be pre-installed. Somebody has to pre-install it.
Unfortunately,
because at the end of the day, you're gonna have same problem like you have with snaps, flat packs. They are forcing it on us. Wow.
Just make it available, and then when they can't run Alacrity, they're gonna go.
They will go
get
some other way.
DPA and just put Nix in there.
Yeah, which isn't ideal, is it? Adding PPAs is not the best way to do things.
Yeah, PPAs have never been the ideal situation, even when they were the only alternative.
I actually run a PPA, a single one. It's called Fresh Mate. It's from the great man himself, Martin Wimpress.
Yeah, but you don't need PPAs anymore because now you have the Ubuntu AUR thing or the Debian AUR, the DUR,
No, you don't
whatever.
use any of those. You use Snap. Because you're on Ubuntu, you should use Snap.
There is a reason I use PPA. Because I wanted the latest version of Mate, and that wasn't available in...
Are you saying that your Mate is newer than my Mate?
No, it's not. No, now it's not. You're in 1.26, right?
No, because Gen 2 still only has 124.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, then it's newer because we transitioned to 1.26. I believe that's what I used before I got into 21.10. I used that because it was what basically worked. Now I think I have it just because it is installed. I think I should remove it one day.
It's fine. The Ubuntu Yaru theme still works perfectly on Gen 2.
Yeah,
I have noticed that Gen 2
it was on 2104, which used 124 but has Yaru Mate for the first time.
I have noticed Gen 2 tends to lag behind Arch a little bit. They're not quite as ready to.
They're not. They're not running.
Oh, they're bleeding edge. It's just Arch will push it out like same day sometimes.
Yeah, it also depends on who is packaging Mate, and I think I actually know of the person who is packaging Mate for Gen 2.
I can pull it up real quick.
Cool.
Too.
Yeah.
Is that Martin Wimpress as well?
No, it's not. No, it's not. But I do know of the
secret
person.
Gen 2 user.
Also, I do know of the person who packaged it for Fedora, and I believe a couple of other distros. And of course, I do know the person who packaged it for Debian. Actually, I know 3 people who do.
Well, are you one of them?
I am one of them.
Okay, well, that would make sense. You would know.
Or I am more specifically, I'm the person who basically recommends things because he does the automatic stuff for Ubuntu, does have automatic builds. Then I can recommend stuff to the other 2 people, or more specifically to the one person who mainly does it. And that one person is Martin Wimpress. Everything goes back to him.
Well, we've only got a few more minutes here until the top of the hour, and we've got 9 of us here to get a last word in. So why don't we go around and let everybody have a minute to give us a last word. Big Pod, you got any last thoughts you want to share with us other than C# is great?
C# is the best. But they did have a bit of a controversy this month, but that was resolved in the benefit of the open source. Yay.
You're going to start a C# JavaScript war if you're not careful.
C# is the best language there is. You can do anything in it. Basically anything. And
you can do basically anything you want in JavaScript too, to be fair.
Yeah, but how good is that going to be? Let's
It's not going to be a great experience. That's why you don't.
With C#, it is really good experience.
To be fair, JavaScript can be slow. You probably shouldn't build your desktop environment using JavaScript.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
But maybe with C# would work. Also, an option GNOME had, but they didn't go for it because they were geniuses. I'm gonna say.
Yeah. All right.
Rust is a good language because it's better than C.
Yeah, I don't know it. One of these days, I'll take a look at Rust.
I had to learn C++ in school. I hate C and C++ with dying passion.
No, that's the past, and we're looking toward the future. C is old school.
Then there is another language I wanted to mention.
Haskell.
No.
Elixir.
No. Oh, I just remembered. TypeScript.
No.
Another Microsoft language.
No.
If you need to write something in something that's JavaScript, use TypeScript, please.
No,
It has types.
Elements did it TypeScript.
Well, Big Pod, when you get settled in Redmond, Washington, let us know. Those of us in the U.S., we may all plan a trip to.
Well, I'm probably gonna sooner or later have a trip to the U.S. That's for sure. Especially after I get a job. But I'm probably going to
get a job before you buy a plane ticket because they're not cheap.
And my probably first target I'm gonna go to is Texas.
Ah, cool. Well, that's pretty close to me. So
yeah,
that doesn't sound like you're stopping at Ohio first.
No, I'm not.
There's nothing in Ohio. I lived in Ohio for a while. You don't want to stop.
People in this chat are in Ohio.
First target is Texas. I'm going to go check how SpaceX is doing with their rocket.
Oh, he's going. Yeah.
I'm going to check that. I'm a big rocket fan.
That's cool.
Then I'm probably gonna go probably to Florida to check the
more rockets.
More rockets. Then I'm probably gonna go to something like Washington. I actually want to see Washington. That's one of the big things I want to see.
They got some good retro computing museum there too, I think.
I want to see. I
got a ton of museums. Yeah.
I want to see Smithsonian.
That's a good trip.
All right, Big Pod.
Well, appreciate you for hanging out, Jean-Michel. Do you have any parting thoughts? Any last words?
Yeah, I don't have anything special, but I just want to say to Big Pod, so he have convinced me I will reinstall Windows 10. And Big Pod, if you fly to the US, fly over Zurich, then we can meet one day.
Oh, there you go. He's got to stop. He's going to do a worldwide tour. He's just going to stop.
One day I'm probably going to go to Switzerland. I'm going to meet one of my friends there.
Yeah.
Okay, then let me know, Big Pod.
I'll let you know if I ever make it to Europe.
So then for the rest...
They didn't ask about you going to Europe.
So and for the rest, I wish you all a good day and a good evening, and hope to see you next time.
All right, thank you, Jean-Michel. Josh, give us a last word.
Well, just remember, if you're the FBI and you're going to be submitting a information request to Signal, just remember they will give you the user account's last sign on using Unix time and not normal time. That said, I have a Raspberry Pi to continue compiling a kernel on, so I will be seeing you guys later.
Yes,
and,
compile a kernel on a Pi. Yes. If you start now, by Tuesday, it might be finished.
Well, to be fair, Firefox just finished.
Okay.
After a week of building, we know.
2 days.
Yeah, imagine installing Gentoo on a Pi, compiling all that software.
That's what I'm doing right now.
I mean, the browsers are actually usually take longer to compile than a kernel, so he might be okay if Firefox only took 2 days. Yeah.
That means a week for everything else. Unless the whole century.
Well, to be fair, we've got everything now. Technically speaking, because I have Xterm on my Pi, and I have a GUI environment, and now I have Firefox. So that means I'm set for life now, right?
until it breaks.
You're right, but I do have to finish updating my kernel.
You haven't installed the audio server yet. I mean, how are you going to listen to YouTube and stuff? Oh, you already installed Pipewire?
Yeah, it's running Pipewire.
All right. Well, thanks for hanging out, Josh.
Not a problem.
Matt, give us the last word, sir.
Oh, not too much to say. I've just been enjoying the conversation. I want to say thanks to you for making this sort of a thing possible.
All right. Well, thanks for hanging out with us. Yeah, these are always fun, so definitely come back next month. You're going to get more crazy talk about C# and JavaScript and all that. So.
Don't worry, I can talk about Clojure then.
All right. Other George. Give us a last word, sir.
No, thanks for hosting again, and I hope everybody gets to enjoy their hobbies and what makes them happy this week.
Yeah, and I hope everybody has a happy Halloween. And those of you that are going out and searching for candy, or pretending to be little kids going door to door. Big Pod, if you shaved, you could almost pass. You could probably get away with going to get some candy. All right, and Root. a.k.a. Murray.
Right.
Would you like to give us a last word, sir?
Yeah, nice to be back. And outside my front door, I don't have a forest. I've got a shopping mall on it. So, yeah, I came across one application similar to Alacrity. It's called Warp. It's not ready yet, but it's going to have a facility that add blocks of code at the terminal. You don't write one statement and hit enter. You hit 3 or 4 statements, and you can hit enter. Sort of like Jupyter Notebook, if you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
Same idea. It's in alpha state. They're running it on Mac right now, but it's going to run on Windows, Mac, and Linux. And it's sort of like News Shell. It's not going to be ready for a year or more, but it's probably, I'm on the alpha testing when it comes out, so I'm keeping my eye out for that when it comes in.
All right, very cool.
And
Murray, you live near a shopping mall, so you live very near a jungle, so. Yeah.
Jungle, yeah, different urban jungle, yes.
Well, with COVID now, the shopping malls aren't
this one's
that busy. No.
Yeah, this one's almost empty all the time now.
Yeah, most of them are dying in the U.S. or they were before the pandemic, and then the pandemic just wiped it out. Nobody goes to malls anymore.
Yeah, we have four major malls, and only one of them is busy. The other ones are derelict.
Yeah.
The other thing I'm not doing much except to started Elixir a few months ago, and I'll be doing that probably for the next year. I haven't found anything in it I don't like yet, so far so good. Cool. So I'll be able to try a few things there on it.
All right.
That's it.
If you're interested, hit me up on the Patreon thing, and I'll be able to get you set up with one of my friends who does Elixir development in Emacs.
In Emacs.
Ah.
Okay.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Solbu. I hope I pronounced that right.
Yeah,
I know we had a conversation about the pronunciation of your name the other day. So, give us a last word, sir.
I think that in this group, I am the most avid free software users. I don't think I have a single proprietary package installed. This is one thing to consider for people who are thinking of what distro to use. The first thing to think about is, do you care about whether it is free and open source, or if it is free? And if you don't care, then it doesn't matter. But if you do care, there is a few. And Debian is the most obvious, one of the obvious choices, because if you install Debian and don't change the repository file, all packages are free software.
Yeah.
So,
and if you want something that's Debian based that really is free, as in freedom, Triskel just had a release here in the last week or two, I think. So it's one of the Free Software Foundation approved distros.
Yeah, I think the Stallman uses that one.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
It's good to know because I have still a machine that have Triskel, but I didn't update, so I will update.
Oh, very cool. Well, thank you, Solbu. And let's get a last word from Stefan.
Yeah, well, thanks, Derek, for hosting this fun and entertaining nerd summit here. I think this has been a great talk, and I think we should all consider using free and open source software, consider donating to some of our advocates, some of the software developers we use.
Yeah.
Maybe to GIMP, maybe join DT's Patreon, do whatever you want, but do something if you can share it. And just wanted to say thanks, always a pleasure, and happy to stay in touch with you guys the next month.
Yeah. All right, very cool. Well, I want to thank each and every one of you guys for hanging out on camera. I think we had 1 or 2 people that also jumped in on camera with us and then left. And, of course, I want to thank all the folks that are hanging out in the YouTube chat as well. You guys had some good questions and comments. These things are always fun to do. I like these monthly chat. I typically do these on the last Sunday of every month at the same time. So I think I'll see you guys, well, tomorrow's the 1st. I'll see you guys November 28th at the same time. And of course, I need to thank all the patrons that couldn't be with us on camera today. So I'm going to show some names on the screen, those of you that are watching on YouTube. These are all the patrons. So I do sincerely thank each and every one of those, ladies and gentlemen. And other than that, I'm out. So guys, wave bye to YouTube.
Bye.